Kenny, are you sure you saw something moving down here, dude?
I'm telling you, something was creeping around here, man. We gotta catch it and blow it out of the fucking airlock before it gets us.
Okay. All right. Well, according to this motion tracker that we rigged up, there's something moving. I think near the boiler room. Okay. All right. We're here outside the boiler room on our spaceship, the USCSS podcast, formerly the USS Sulaco.
It says here, man, the signal is coming from right inside, like almost right on the other side of that door.
Oh, shit.
We should just barge in, man, and just catch whatever it is with this net I'm carrying.
Okay, let's do it. Oh, it's so smoky in here.
Oh man. Oh, shit. Turns out it was just Coolerbot. Fuck. You know, our sentient water cooler robot.
Dude, Coolerbot, are you hotboxing the boiler room again? 420 was last weekend.
Hey man, don't spill the bog water.
Great, Neil. Look what you fucking did, man. Coolerbot got into your fucking stash of heavy metal magazines again.
I'm a big Richard Corbin fan.
Welcome to Crew Expendable. I am AKEECHWCGMEHOOUKNEPCTSQ Hallstrom.
And I am some kind of organism Rohrbacher.
And we are a couple of space truckers looking for death in the cramped interior of the Alien franchise.
Imagine I'm nodding sagely. Very true.
Man. Hey, Kenny, how's it going?
Just chilling, you know.
Happy Alien Day.
Happy Alien Day, my dude. For the listeners, we are not recording this on Alien Day. It is, however, very close.
Yeah, we are releasing this on Alien Day, assuming I
do that.
keep my shit together. Assuming I keep my shit
you
together.
do that, that's what'll
Right.
happen. Yes.
Yeah, which I've been working on. But we've been pretty good about getting episodes out lately, and the goal is to continue that, right?
I mean, that's the plan. Yes.
Sure. We finally wrapped up our coverage of Aliens What
Yeah,
If.
it took us over a year. Yep. Issue 5 came out, I think, 1 year and 9 days after our What If 1 episode came out. Very cool. We're good at this. Don't worry. We're good at this.
The long time listeners understand why. For the newcomers, the short version is I had some health problems, and I'm doing better.
Also true.
I'm not gonna go too into it, but hey, I'm doing better. New course of treatment. I'm doing better.
Yep,
guys.
there's an episode back on the feed some months ago that's very short where we talk about why. So if you want to know, go listen to that.
Yeah, and hey, listen. Speaking of what ifs, listen to I think the what if number 2. I give a good rundown at the beginning of that one also. Yeah, but hey, I'm doing better.
Thumbs up.
I will say, just this is an update that I don't think anybody saw coming. It is sometimes hard for me to look at a computer screen.
Also true.
Sometimes that makes me have a seizure. So
that is also true. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So sometimes it's hard for me to stay on top of these things, but we're working on it.
We sure are.
Anyway, it's supposed to be a brief update, so let's move on. What are we here to talk about today, Kenny, on everybody's favorite holiday?
We are here to talk about a comic book released in 1979 called Alien, the Illustrated Story.
Holy shit, guys. Alien, the Illustrated Story. We are really going back to the roots here, aren't we?
Yeah, it's like, I think one of the first pieces of like Alien expanded media to ever come out, maybe the first, but that I don't know because I didn't look for sure. But like it came out like I believe within a month of when the movie came out.
Yeah, I think was it the novel around the same time, or did the novel come later? I know that this has scenes in it that were also in the novel that didn't make it into the movie,
Yeah, there's a
right?
few minor things in this comic that were not in the movie for sure. There wasn't like entire set pieces, but there are like, dialogue pieces and things like that. It's slightly different, but it's like 95% the same thing.
Some stuff that, I think of one scene maybe made it into the director's cut. We'll get into all that stuff later, but yeah, this is a 64-page graphic novel published by Heavy Metal Magazine.
It sure is. And did you notice on the final page what they listed the price as for this 64-page full color original graphic novel?
Fucking $3.95, dude.
$3.95.
Wait, I guess we should specify. We're reading a scan of the original Heavy Metal published version. This thing has been reprinted. It was reprinted in 2012. And then there was also a miniature version of the comic released with the Alien 35th Anniversary Edition Blu-ray. But we are reading a scan of the original Heavy Metal release.
Yep, we sure are.
The other version's more expensive than $3.95.
Yeah, for the record, I looked it up, and as of right now, in the current modern, economy, climate, society, however you want to phrase it, a 64-page original graphic novel in full color will now, like of the same size in hardcover, will now cost you roughly $13 to $17.
Yeah, tariffs.
So in the 45 years or whatever, in the intervening time since this came out, it's roughly quadrupled in price.
I'll tell you though, for $4, this is a steal.
It is a significant amount of comic for $4. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like Marvel is currently charging more than that for a regular size comic book.
Yeah, which, as we learn from our What If coverage, ranges anywhere from 19 to 22 pages of story.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even consistent. Although that's not new, man. I've been reading. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. I've been rereading Ultimate Spider-Man, the original Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, I also don't know why you're doing that to yourself.
Well, that's still a good book in a lot of ways, but I've also been rereading Ultimate X-Men, and that's the one that's not a good book anymore. And a lot of those early Ultimate X-Men's are like 19 pages long, dude.
Man, I got so mad when I found out that in the Ultimates universe, Wolverine and Cable were the same guy.
Hey, spoilers, all right? I'm at the beginning of it.
Yes, sorry, spoilers for like a 22-year-old comic or whatever.
They did a lot of dumb shit in those. I'm gonna stand by the original Ultimate Spider-Man, but the rest of what they were doing in those Ultimate books kind of. All right, let's just get off topic immediately. Do you remember the people who were like, hey, Marvel should just make the Ultimate Universe their main universe because it's so cool and popular and modern, and then make the actual Marvel Universe like a side universe?
I do remember that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't fucking do that, man. How dumb would that have been?
It would have also especially sucked now, considering when a few years ago they shut down the entire Ultimate Universe anyway.
Yeah, but now the maker's kind of bringing it back a little bit, sort of.
Yeah, they definitely relaunched the Ultimate Universe, but it only lasted for about 20 years before they stopped doing it anyway. And so if they had made the Ultimate Universe the main universe, they would have been like, uh-oh.
They really would have written themselves into a corner. Anyway, we don't need to get into that now. I'll talk to Tom about it later.
I'm sure you will.
Shout out to Tom.
What up, Tom?
All right, let's get back on topic here.
Alien the Illustrated Story.
Yeah, we should also let people know it is a late-ish weeknight record, so we're a little silly maybe.
Yeah, it's both later in time and later in day than we normally record.
And we're covering a story that we've already kind of covered twice. Once as a movie and once the original screenplay comic. So, got to talk about something, right?
Got to talk about something, baby.
All right.
Our original idea was to do an episode about the special edition of Alien, but then we realized that, that means we have to take the time to watch the entire movie again. And also, there's like 2 minutes of different footage, so the episode would be like 10 minutes long.
Yeah, but we could have seen that sweet egg morphing scene. I got news for you, Kenny. I watched the director's cut.
I'm sure you did.
While I read this, because I read this over the weekend, I had Alien on in the background. And then I also watched the director's cut like right afterwards. What I was doing, because it's been a while and I was unfamiliar, is I was hunting for differences. I was hunting for things that might have been in this that weren't in either cut of the movie. You know, the small scenes, the little scenes. And there's only one I picked up on. And then I looked online where people who know a lot more about these movies than I do have written it up. And I was like, okay, well, I picked up on the one, so that's good.
Yeah, there's a few different moments in this comic that I'm like, I don't know if this is new for this comic or if it's something that was in the movie and I just don't remember it, but this doesn't seem super familiar to me. So I'm just going to assume it's one of the things that's new to the comic.
Sure. Yeah. For the most part, that's accurate. Let's talk a little bit about publication history here. Kenny, were you a heavy metal magazine guy?
The magazine, no. My only experience with the franchise of heavy metal is the movie Heavy Metal 2000.
Not even the original one.
Well, let me get there.
Okay.
It is a film I have watched in its entirety one time.
All right.
But I have watched several times the scene where she gets naked and seduces a guy.
All right.
Because the movie came out on VHS when I was 13 and my best friend owned a copy of it.
Fair. So the Heavy Metal 2000, where Julie Strain is made, is the main character is based on Julie Strain, who at the time was Kevin Eastman's wife. Kevin Eastman wrote Melting Pot, the graphic novel, the comic book series graphic novel with Simon Bisley.
That this movie is based off
that
of.
Heavy Metal 2000 was based on. Kevin Eastman also was owner of Heavy Metal magazine for for 2 decades, I think. Quite a while. He sold
something like that, long. I don't know if he was owner of it when they made the movie, but presumably
he was. Yes, he was. He ran a lot of articles about making that movie in his magazine and put his wife on a lot of covers. So Julie Strain was the lead, and the main bad guy is played by Billy Idol. That's really all I remember. Michael Ironside.
Oh, it was Michael Ironside. Well, I know Billy Idol is in the movie.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't remember. Man, so you didn't even know the original Heavy Metal, the anthology movie that featured a story based on the Den series created by Richard Corbin, who I referenced in the intro.
You sure did. I have not seen the original Heavy Metal movie, no.
All right. Well, I'll say I was because the magazine is out of publication, although I believe they've ran a successful Kickstarter to get it going again. At least
they did.
As a quarterly. Oh, are you up on this? Did you contribute?
I did not. I did get a bunch of ads for it though while it was running.
Okay.
So
I was a Heavy Metal magazine guy for quite a while. In my big indie comics phase, in my 20s, really, my late teens, early 20s, I had quite a collection actually of 80s and 90s issues, particularly some 70s issues. Considering the magazine first started in 1977, I had like a couple of 78, 79 issues, and then quite a few late 80s. Yeah, late 80s, and then a chunk of late 90s and early 2000s. That was when I was doing heavy metal stuff.
That's fair.
Yeah, a lot of them have gone away. I've held on to a few key issues, right? I have a whole special on just Mobius stories reprinted. Like one of the first times his comics were printed in English, like translated and printed over here.
I got you.
So like just as a comics lover, it was a great way to just read European comics. So I guess just a brief rundown for the people who are unfamiliar. Heavy Metal was essentially the American version of a French publication called Metal Hurlant, which is, I believe, translates into Howling Metal, which was an adult, and by adult I don't just mean like, you know, erotic, but like an adult comics anthology magazine. And
yeah, it had a lot. It had a lot of boobs, but it also had a lot of gore in it. So
a lot of gore, a lot of science fiction, and just weird stories and art and pinups and things like that. Heavy Metal became popular. The magazine format in general became popular in the United States when the Comics Code was, you know, being enforced, and publishers had to, in order to get their books into stores, had to like follow the Comics Code, which controlled like what content could be published in a comic book. Magazines were like the workaround, like the magazine format was like the workaround on how to like get away with publishing, you know, whatever the hell you wanted. Mm-hmm. But that's when like there was a market for things like Heavy Metal and like your Savage Sword of Conan, and Marvel did Epic, the Epic anthology and things like that. Anyway, so because Heavy Metal was like set up as this, you know, well-known publisher of science fiction stories and comic stories geared towards adults with violence and gore and stuff in them, they were like the perfect publisher to publish Alien, the illustrated story. It wasn't their only original graphic novel that they published under like the HM Communications banner. They also did the illustrated story for Steven Spielberg's 1941.
which I didn't even know they did one of.
Neither did I.
Insane choice for them to make.
Yes. Now let's talk more specifically about Alien, the illustrated story. Kenny, do you know who wrote this thing?
I do, as a matter of fact. I wrote down in my notes because I saw the listing of the writer and illustrator and went, holy shit, wow, what a fucking poll they got.
Are you kidding me? Right?
This comic was written by Archie Goodwin and illustrated by one Walt Simonson.
Archie Goodwin and Walt Simonson.
Insane pair of pulls. I could not believe it, dude.
Yeah. All right. So rewind a little bit. This didn't flow as flawlessly as I wanted it to in my head when I was doing this at work. Archie Goodwin, incredibly famous writer and editor for various horror anthologies, such as the EC titles, Creepy and Eerie, right? Mm-hmm. The kind of books that caused the Comics Code to be created in the first place, right?
Also correct, yeah.
Also the editor for Marvel's Epic Illustrated, their competing adult fantasy anthology magazine. Which
my understanding is that it only exists because Marvel was asked if they wanted to be the American publisher of Heavy Metal, and they said no, and then immediately regretted it.
100%, yes.
Yeah.
Archie Goodwin also was a contributing writer to Savage Sword of Conan, I believe. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I don't know, a million other things, right?
He was, among other things, the original writer for Iron Man when it launched in 1968. He co-created my boy Luke Cage.
Yes.
He also created Spider-Woman. I think co-created again. And he is widely considered maybe the best comic book editor to ever work in the business.
Yes, he is. I do want to say he was the original writer on the solo Iron Man series. Iron Man debuted he ran in Tales of Suspense for a long time. And do you know how I know? Do you know how I know this?
I do not know.
Because I was like, oh shit, Archie Goodwin was writing on Iron Man. I'm going to go over to my shelf over here with the Marvel Essentials. I'm going to pick up this Iron Man volume and check out some Archie Goodwin Iron Mans. And all it was, I had volume 1, and it's just the Tales of Suspense stuff. No Archie Goodwin in there at all. So
yeah, that's a good point because I think they did say he started writing Iron Man, like he was the original writer of Iron Man in 1968. And I was
yes.
like, I think Iron Man had been around for longer than that. But yeah, you're right. The actual Iron Man comic didn't start until a few years later because he was in other stuff before he got his own solo book.
Yes, he was. Yes. And so then I was like, oh, wait, I think he was a writer on Savage Sword of Conan. I've got some of those Dark Horse collections of the old Savage Sword of Conan, the collections of the magazine stories. I wonder if I got any of the Archie Goodwin stories. I opened those up. Nope, it's just chronological collections of the Roy Thomas stories. I got nothing, none of his stuff either. And then I was like, oh, wait, I think our guy Walt Simonson drew some of the Savage Sword stories. Nope, I've only got the ones with John Buscema drawing them.
Yep.
That's it. Not that I'm complaining; those are beautiful books. But man, I would love to see some Walt Simonson Conan. Let's talk about that guy, though.
According to his Wikipedia page, it says he's arguably most famous for being the creator of Beta Ray Bill.
Beta Ray Bill, that's right.
Which I thought was an interesting poll. But as you may imagine, he did some Thor. He did Fantastic Four for a little while. He did some Batman for a while. He's one of those guys where, from my understanding, is he's primarily known as an illustrator, but he also does a lot of writing his own illustrated comics.
Yes, Walt Simonson had
although he's more famous for being an illustrator, but he also did do a lot of comic book writing, and it was almost always his own books that he was also drawing.
He had a pretty legendary run on Thor, if you're a Thor guy.
I believe he's the guy that wrote the issue where Thor got turned into a frog.
I think so. He's also
I believe that was him.
He worked on the Marvel Star Wars books. I think Archie Goodwin also wrote a lot of the Marvel Star Wars stuff as well. The old stuff, you know?
Yeah, I believe Archie was like one of the guys that got Marvel to get the Star Wars license.
Yes.
Or something. Like he was involved in them getting it. And so that's why he was like a big writer on it. They were like, well, you're the one that got it, so now it's your fucking job.
Yes. And yes. So both of these guys they both have pretty legendary careers in comics.
Yeah, I would describe them legitimately as legends of the comic books. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. And just like looking at this as an example of their work, if this is the only thing you've seen by them is Alien, the illustrated story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. I'm just going to spoil it right now. Yeah. This thing fucking rules, guys.
I like straight up, man, like the literal first page that you see of the CBR or whatever type of file this is like a negative space shot of a close-up of a xenomorph from later on in the book, and just this one picture in negative cut out by itself. I'm like, god damn, that xenomorph looks so fucking good, dude.
It does. I was won over. Okay, so we've got that. Then we've got the little black and white page, Alien the Illustrated Story, with the Nostromo sort of being grabbed by tentacles under the word alien. That's pretty dope.
With
right?
the really cool usage of negative space that I always really like when books do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we've got this little, the credits page, the publishing details with the spread in the middle. Which
also has some cool use of negative space in it.
A lot of negative space here. The title, the title page, the spread, right? That opens with, the Joseph Conrad quote, "We live as we dream alone." And it's got alien spelled out and filled in with like those Giger style, organic, alien parts. You see like ribs and teeth and all this stuff.
Yeah, it sure does do that. I took one look at that and went, "Oh my god, this comic is gonna rule." Yeah,
I was sold like from that fucking moment. Like I was like, okay, we're in business here. Oh, I think that's also worth mentioning. Heavy Metal Magazine very famously published H.R. Giger's work a lot in the United States.
Nice. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I also do find it funny on the title page. It says, based on 20th Century Fox's science fiction hit Alien.
Yeah.
I would argue it's more of a horror movie than a science fiction movie, but what do I know?
What do I know? Yeah. What do either of us know? Yeah, man. As soon as I saw this title page, though, I was fucking sold. I was like,
yeah, I saw that first image of the xenomorph and I went, that looks really good. And then the next page had really interesting use of negative and white space. And I went, that's really cool. And then I saw that Alien logo on the first page of the actual comic for real with the Conrad quote. And I went, all right, man, we've already gotten 3 hits in a row and we're on page 4 of the comic.
There's just something beautiful about, just opening it with the Conrad quote, right? Like getting the connection, the Nostromo and all of that. Like they were just locked in. And then like from there, like the opening is pretty standard. Like from the movie, we're not going to go through this page. You guys have seen Alien, right?
Yeah, listeners, I want you to imagine, if you will, close your eyes and picture the film Alien. All right, hold that in your mind. Okay, picture that if you can. That's the comic.
That's what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a comic book adaptation.
It is
of the movie Alien.
It is straight up the movie Alien, just with 1 or 2 minor snatches of dialogue. And like, because they drew everything in panels and from scratch and stuff, it doesn't use like the same camera angles and stuff. But like, if you recall the events of the film Alien, they are also the events of the comic Alien, the illustrated story.
Yeah, we should. Man, the colors in this are just fucking phenomenal. This was colored by like 5 different people too. This was colored. Okay, Polly Law, Bob K. LaRose, Deb Pedler, and Louise Simonson. Those are the colorists on this book. Louise Simonson, I believe, Walt
Simonson's wife.
Yes.
Yes,
and
they've been married for like a long time.
and this whole thing lettered by John Workman. I'm pointing that out because the next few pages of the crew waking up, a minor change, but a change is Kane wakes up first and starts making coffee and breakfast for everybody, which is a little different than how it plays out in the movie, right? Not much different, but a little different. But we see so much of instantly. Like the colors are really telling a different story than the movie is. I love all these yellow and orange backgrounds we're getting in all of the panels.
It's funny you mentioned the color because I didn't actually note it down until later on in my notes, like in the comic. Yeah. But yeah, the coloring in this comic is real good.
It's incredible. But like just so we get this page, just everyone sitting around the table, we've got Parker and Brett complaining about the bonus situation. We get the yellow light, right? Ash telling Dallas that Mother wants to talk to him, and we get everyone's, Lambert, ship's navigator, Captain Dallas, science officer Ash, warrant officer Ripley in the smallest, like who becomes the main character of the movie in like the smallest panel with the cat
the smallest panel of all of the characters and has Jones in the panel with her
on her shoulder, like on her back. It's pretty adorable.
Which, by the way, side note, I don't think the cat is ever referred to as Jonesy anywhere in the comic. They only ever call him Jones, as far as I was able to tell.
Yeah, Jonesy was sort of like just what she calls, like, oh, Jonesy, like a little cute nickname, right?
Yeah, and
Jones
that's
is the name.
Yeah, that's the thing. The cat's name is Jones. Everyone only ever calls the cat Jonesy, so I thought Jonesy was the cat's name, but no, the cat's name is Jones.
Yeah, and the cat's name is Jonesy.
That's true, but yes.
And the cat's name is Jonesy. They're called ovomorphs. These are things the fans have decided.
You've got me there.
I like the way that we've got. I'm bringing up the lettering because, like on the next page, we get the first of like several times where we have like descriptions about what's going on written in like the panel breaks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like they're like narration boxes, but they're not they're only sometimes like actually written in boxes. Usually more often they appear like in the gutters between panels.
Yeah, and I like that they don't always take up space in the panel, because I love the detail in the artwork here, like seeing the cockpit of the bridge. I like that it's not covering up any of that stuff.
One thing I also like about them is that it took me a little bit until I noticed it, but the narration boxes,
Yeah.
they're written in present tense,
Yes.
which I thought was an interesting choice.
That is interesting. Switches are thrown, power cells hum, lights flicker, a starship comes fully to life. Yeah.
Yeah, they're written in present tense, which I thought was a cool choice. I liked it.
Man, I'm just flipping through this first exterior shot we see of the Nostromo, the whole hauling rig.
The ship looks sick as hell. I don't remember it looking like that in the movie, though.
Oh, I do, because it's not just it's not just the Nostromo shuttle. Like, this is the whole rig, like the whole.
So it did look like this in the movie. I don't remember that. So okay, cool. I will take your word for it. You've seen it more recently and more often than I have.
Yeah, but I love the way it's like colored like pink and like orange, and it's framed with this sort of, again, this like organic biomechanical frame, and we see like this just the swirls of space around it. I don't like, just versus the darkness of the movie, just like being able to see some of these things so clearly and so recognizably.
Here's one thing the comic does that I didn't recall happening in the movie.
Yeah.
Is when Ripley tries to get a hold of Earth to see what the hell's going on or whatever.
Yes.
She says, refinery tanker Nostromo out of Houston calling Antarctica. Do you read me? That means the Nostromo launched from Houston, and their communications base is located in Antarctica, which I thought was a fun little detail that I don't remember being in the movie.
So they do. She does call Antarctica, but they don't. I forget what she says they're coming out of. But they're not coming out. They're not out of Houston in the movie. I forget what she says though.
It's fine. I mean, like I said, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't know some of these things. I didn't know if they were new or I just didn't remember them. So if they did do it in the movie and I just didn't remember, that's fine. I already said that might have happened, so it's cool.
We're not experts, and the listeners know this, right?
That's right.
And again, we're back to these warm backgrounds behind all the characters are rendered in these, like the Nostromo blues, right? Like all of, man, my favorite song is the Nostromo blues.
Thank you.
But like all the characters in these cool colors with these like warm orange and yellow backgrounds and red backgrounds. And that like persists through the whole book.
Oh yeah, here we go. This is the moment I was referring to when I was talking earlier about how I couldn't find in my notes where I was talking about the colors. It's this page right here where Dallas has them all and is telling them that we stopped, we picked up a signal. Kane's like, is it an SOS? Unknown. Is it human? Unknown. This page here, this is the one where I was like, wow, look how fucking good these colors are, man. The last panel of the second line where you see half of Parker and he's looking over at Ash, the coloring, how they did it on Parker's arm there. I saw that and I was like, wow, that looks so insanely cool and detailed. I am extremely impressed. Then I started scanning over the rest of it and it really hit me. No, man, the entire book looks like that.
And that too, that didn't have to be 2 panels. That could have, a different artist would have made that 1 panel, right? He would have said his thing and it would have cut over to what Ash is saying. But he's saying his thing and then we're panning over to Ash, but it's still keeping him in the frame, right? Like it's giving this motion, right? It's capturing the cinematic quality of the film. The kind of choice that you don't necessarily always notice, but someone who is extremely good at this is the only type of person who would think of doing that. Right.
Yeah.
It takes a Walt Simonson, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I do want to just point this out. This is where I got my designation, was when they play the distress beacon, and it's just represented as a series of vowels and consonants in a really harsh
just like
font.
broken up and split into pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, I just read the first 2 lines of those as best as I could reason that they were as
That's fair.
my designation, guys. Okay. Here's my only, and I'm going to, it's not even a complaint. The only thing I thought as I was reading this was that I was like, I don't know, man, is that they spent a hell of a lot of time in this book. So this is roughly page 12, and it lasts through, I think, page 33. So from page 12 to page 33 is the shuttle launching, heading down to LV-426, the shuttle getting damaged. They have to repair it, right? Or not the shuttle, the Nostromo, like launching down to LV-426, getting damaged. They have to repair it. They go and they investigate the derelict. Kane gets the face hugger, everything. This is a 64-page book, and that's what, 21 pages. That's a quarter of that's a third of the book.
Yeah, they spend roughly a third of the book in what is roughly like a quarter of the movie. Yeah,
and they don't skip a beat of this whole section from the movie, and may have even added some things onto it.
It's just from the movie. Yeah, that is correct. It is just a comic book version of the movie. There's actually 1 or 2 moments in here that again didn't recall happening in the movie. That doesn't mean they don't. I may have just forgotten it, but I seem to remember the movie version of the ship getting damaged during entry being a little different.
It certainly moves faster than this version does.
And there was something else. I can't find it immediately, so continue on with whatever you're going to say.
This was just a lot. And again, they don't skip a beat. I understand it's important to the plot, and it's very fun to look at. But I don't know. Later on in the book, certain things do feel a bit rushed, particularly. And I don't know. Maybe it's just a symptom of Alien books, man. The end feels a little rushed, right?
Yeah, they usually do. Yeah.
And I found myself thinking like, they could have taken a couple pages out of this section to add a little bit more suspense, especially at the very, very end of this thing. But, man, those shots... Here's the thing. In the movie, when Kane, Dallas, and Lambert are going out to check on the derelict, right? To check on the source of the code, of the distress beacon. They do say that there will be daylight soon, right? We hear that. But the movie is so dark, it doesn't feel like it. Everything's still like a wash in, again, just... I don't even know how to describe it. The darkest movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. I remembered the thing I was leading up to when I was saying just like a minute ago about how I was like, oh yeah, they may have even added 1 or 2 things to this scene here. Again, this is something that I don't remember if it happens in the movie. Maybe it did. Maybe I just forgot, or maybe it's new for this comic. But Ash seems to be doing like more science-y stuff in this comic than I remember him really doing much of in the movie. Like, he still, like, does the autopsy, and he still, like, checks out Kane when they bring him back and stuff. Mm-hmm. But, like, especially during this scene, there's moments where, like, where is it? Oh, yeah. Like, while they're on the way to the signal, he's, like, giving them updates on, like, when the sun's about to come up. He's, like, tracking the, the air makeup and, like, the oxygen content and like how much gravity they have when they're on their way there. And it's like, I don't remember him doing any of that stuff in the movie. And so I was like, oh, he's doing more science type things in this than he did before. That's kind of cool.
I think it's just that it gets more focus in this because, again, they don't skip a single beat. All those things happen in the movie. Like in the movie, that's one change. In this, he says you'll have daylight in 10 minutes. In the movie, he says you'll have daylight in 20 minutes. Maybe that's why the movie stayed dark.
Maybe. Could be.
But he is doing all of that stuff in the movie, but there's so much other stuff happening in the movie, it keeps cutting away from it very quickly.
I got you.
And in this, you're just seeing every single bit of everything that's happening here, right? And it's, it's a very entertaining part of the movie. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about it. My whole point with this was like, they could have trimmed this section in the adaptation a little bit to expand a couple of the other sections, especially if they had a 64-page limit.
You know what they shouldn't have cut from this section, though?
Speaking of
that
daylight.
that wicked fucking 2-page spread of the Juggernaut, which looks good as hell.
The goddamn bone ship.
It looks so cool, man. It looks so good. I cannot get over how fucking good it looks.
There's a 2-page spread of the bone ship, and it's rendered all green, and it looks amazing. The sky, it's like I know the sun is coming up, but it's like a sunset in the sky over top of it.
Yeah, it's like orange red, and like the entire ship is like you said, it's like rendered in like a greenish that makes it look like it's part moss and part rust,
Yeah.
Or not rust, but like rust, like how the Statue of Liberty rusted.
Like a
green,
patina. Yeah, a patina of green. And it's just this rainbow sherbet sky.
It just looks so fucking cool.
It really is incredible. Yeah.
It is wicked as hell. And it's like, even though I was already sold on this comic by the time I got here, I took one look at that and went, oh my God.
It's really great. And then, and even prior to that, as we see the sun coming up on the planetoid, on the moon, and then we see, again, the lettering in the background really representing cool. Representing the distress beacon, the same sort of consonants repeating and vowels just repeating to represent the signal.
And it's really fun because the sun, it has like they render it like it's a disc. They put like a shadow in the middle of it, so it looks like a ring rather than an orb, which I thought was a really fun choice.
Just all of the aesthetic choices in this are blowing me away. The suits, man, their EVA suits.
They're so chunky.
Is that the right word? EVA suits?
That's fine.
Do I just call anything that anyone needs to go out into zero gravity or zero atmosphere in this series an EVA something?
Here's the thing. If you do, that's fine, because as long as you have a consistent terminology, listeners will know what you're talking about. Hey,
listeners, don't write in mother@crewexpendable.net. I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, if that's not what they're called, we don't care. It's fine. You know what we mean when we say
what we mean.
You've seen the movie. The suits they're walking towards the beacon in, those.
They're space suits, you nerds. Yeah. All right, but we got some legendary visuals on this.
Yeah.
In this section, right? The other, of course, phenomenal.
Just a couple of pages later. When they fucking show the space jockey and you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. And this is a darkly rendered page, and there is something really interesting where it's like environments are rendered warmly and humans are rendered in these cooler colors. And that kind of applies to Mr. Space Jockey here as well. But he's got this little bit, and I know it's from their work lights or from their, exploration lights. He's kind of washed with this yellow, like almost like he's just highlights of him. Because even though he was alive, he's now becoming a part of the environment. That's my college thesis.
Also, this is something that I'm pretty sure they added to the comic.
What, when they turned the distress beacon off?
There's an insert panel of them turning the beacon off. Yeah. And I was like, I don't think that happens in the movie, because the entire opening of Isolation is intended to retcon that away. So it clearly doesn't happen in the actual movie.
Did that happen in the original screenplay comic? Because it felt familiar to me.
The reason it felt familiar to me is because the opening of the Isolation novelization is that other ship arriving here, and one of the characters flips it off. So that might be what you're thinking of. Like the entire opening of Isolation, like the novel, is like explaining away that plot hole that was left in the original movie, because in the original movie no one turns the beacon off when they arrive.
Right. Yes, that's right. That's right. I remember.
So yeah, like that's one thing this book adds that wasn't in the original movie.
Yes. Okay. It's all coming back to me.
Kane climbs down into, the nesting chamber, so to speak, where all the eggs are.
Yeah, the egg chamber scene looks very good, very quick. Again, it's one.
It is.
It's a single
only
page.
It's like he's climbing down on like a really thin, tall panel on the side, and then the first panel of the next page is him landing on the ground. And then the second panel is him getting the face hugger, so it literally only happens in one page.
I like that it's juxtaposed with, we have him starting his descent, and then we have the panels of Ripley talking to Ash and being like, I deciphered part of this transmission. I don't think it's an SOS. I think it might be a warning. And she's like, I'm going to go after him. And he's like, no, he doesn't say it like in the movie. In the movie, he's like, what's the point? If they're going to, by the time you catch up to them, they'll know if it's a warning or not. And he words it differently now, right? He's like, you can't leave. If you leave, we won't be able to take off. Right.
Yeah, he uses the phrase minimum takeoff capability, which I gotta say, to me, is a way better explanation for why he doesn't want her to leave and not be suspicious.
It's less
than the movie has.
But then
lot. Yeah,
he also
that's
says
a lot more reasonable of a reason to me.
Right. He also does the what's the point thing. But there's something interesting here where she's like, I still think we should go. And then he says the what's the point thing, because then here's her trying to break protocol, right? And him telling her you can't break protocol, where now on the next page, she's going to be like, we can't break protocol. Dude has a thing on his face, and Ash and everyone else is like, you have to break protocol, right? So
this panel, though, the one where Kane actually gets attacked, does something that I genuinely thought is like, one of the cooler things I've ever seen a comic book do.
This page is dope. Tell me what you're looking at.
It is the bottom row. The first panel is he gets attacked by the face hugger, who literally is only in one panel of this page.
This is sick, yeah.
And then the third panel is just a strip of black. There is a middle panel in the section where it's like as if you're seeing it from Kane's perspective, where he's starting to pass out. And so it's like a wash of black, but there's like splotches of red all over with a speech bubble in the center. And the speech bubble is other people on the radio talking to him. And as you go down the speech bubble, the words get smaller and harder to read. And the speech bubble itself starts getting covered in crisscrossed red lines.
It's very cool. Yeah.
And I was like, God, again, something that only a master of their craft would even think of doing.
Very fucking cool.
It is insane how cool it is.
I love that. I love that page. And even the one above it where we're seeing the ovomorph open and we're just seeing Kane's like back to it and watching it start to open as he turns with his light and looks down in on it as it's open, and then wham.
Yeah,
and we don't even see what happens to, it captures like what happens to him in the movie, where it just leaps at him and we don't know what happened, right? Because we don't see it.
Yeah.
Strike his face, his head is off panel.
Yeah, we don't see it actually attach, because like the panel before it, he's looking into the ovo while it's open, and then the one panel where it actually attacks him, the face hugger is like 2/3 off panel. We just get the back couple of legs and the long tail as it's knocking him off panel, so his head isn't even in the panel, so we don't actually even see it like attach onto him.
I think like my feeling right now looking through this again, and my feeling reading it, was like, if you hadn't seen the movie and you had read this is doing a really good job of capturing the vibe of the movie.
Yep. Even the vibe was the word I was going to use too. Yeah.
even though like it's not aesthetically like I'll say everyone looks like they do in the movie, right?
That is also true. I even wrote that in my notes. Yeah.
which is awesome. But like, you know, the environments look different. Just the coloring is very different, obviously. But this still feels like the movie, right? It feels a little bit like the movie. Someone turned the lights on in certain instances, but it doesn't ruin the vibe, right? It's done in the right ways, in my opinion.
There is a moment here on the next page, you know, where they're bringing Kane back.
Yes.
That I need to talk to you about.
Okay.
I even wrote in my notes something I just thought about that didn't hit me any of the times that I ever saw the movie, but is only hitting me right now while I'm reading the comic.
Yeah.
How did they get Kane back to the ship?
I feel like we've talked about this.
We might have. But it's like later on in the comic, they specify that the facehugger ate through the face mask on his helmet. It didn't like break it. It ate through it, just like, you know, acid burned it away or whatever. And we see a shot here on this page of Lambert and Dallas with Kane strapped to something, and they're bringing him along. And we see in the panel, he has his helmet on, but like, how? If they have to wear suits to be able to survive outside, how were they able to bring him back with a broken helmet without him dying?
There's a line about it being the atmosphere being primordial.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were about to say to me, there is a line where they specify that the facehugger is breathing for him.
There's
was
also
what I thought you were about to say to me.
There is also a line where they say the facehugger is breathing for him. I was trying to think, like, was there a line where they said that they could mainly nitrogen and carbon dioxide with smaller quantities of oxygen, methane, and ammonia? I don't know if that means you could breathe it for a short period of time. I don't think so.
Yeah, because like the thing of it is the other two characters have to wear sealed suits to be able to get to where they're going. So presumably Kane would need to as well. And in the panel where they're carrying him, you can even see at the very top of his helmet, there's a small squiggly line that implies that there is a hole in his face, in the face of his helmet.
Right.
So like his helmet is open. It's just like exposed to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And like he should be dying. And like I think part of the reason it never occurred to me during the movie is because I think it, like in the movie, we see Kane get attacked and then it cuts back to the ship.
Right.
And then the three of them arrive out of the, like outside of the door. Like there isn't a scene of the two of them moving Kane's body over the surface of the planetoid. So it never occurred to me while I was watching the movie. But since they have that shot in this comic, seeing his body laid out made me go, wait a minute.
So my guess is that all that they did was they're like, we got to bring him back, whether he's alive or dead, or we don't know what's going on, right? So
okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I'm assuming they monitored him as they brought him back. If they were able to see him, if they were able to check his vitals somehow, they were probably doing that. They were just bringing him back, you know, and then when they got him inside and they were able to see, like, cut the helmet off and see that he was still alive and the thing was breathing for him, they were like, okay, cool. Because
on the way in, Dallas does specifically say Kane's injured, which implies that they know at that point he's not dead.
Right. So yeah,
but,
maybe
that's just me looking for an explanation where they didn't necessarily intend that to be one. So
maybe they were able to get in there and check for a pulse somehow or something, right? Who knows?
Also, this page, since you mentioned it earlier, this page is also where I got my designation to, because Ripley says, Dallas, what exactly happened to Kane? And Dallas goes, some kind of organism is attached itself to him.
Nice.
So yeah, that's where I got mine too.
I was going to be inner hatch open Hallstrom. I'm going to edit that back to the beginning. It's better than what I came up with.
No, I like the one you came up with. Keep it.
Okay. All right.
It's good.
I'm afraid we're falling into like doing every single page and panel, but there's so much. There is a lot to love about this.
I will say I am specifically only trying to point out things that I liked specifically about how the comic did it,
Yes.
or stuff that I thought or remember being different from the movie.
Yes.
So,
well, I'll say the shot of the face hugger on Kane's head in the infirmary, just fantastic. The
looks good as hell.
Looks good as hell. And from there, I'm able to move on to Lambert punching the fuck out of Ripley when Ripley comes in, which was
she sure does do that
in the director's cut, not in the theatrical cut.
Yeah, I don't remember that happening, but I've also only seen the director's cut once.
Yeah,
so
just decks the fuck out of her, man. Goes, you were going to leave us out there, bow, and then
so you were going to leave us out here, and then Parker comes up and says, well, hell, maybe she should have. And I was like, that's right, she should have.
And then Ripley's like, I was trying to do my job. I love, speaking of things that I just love the way the comic does this. I love when a comic can tell an entire story in a single page, right? Mm-hmm. The page with the acid spill is just beautiful. The top.
Oh, yeah, it's good as hell.
When it just shows
it has a really good sense of like pacing and movement through it.
Yeah, and think about how that was in the movie where they are running from deck to deck and up and down and over and checking and running down to the next deck and checking, and all of that is accomplished in one single page here, just through like the efficient use of not even just panels, but then like showing the stacked, like that second vertical panel. Third, I guess, showing the stacked decks, the different crew members on the different levels. And then,
and it's one panel, but it visually kind of is broken up because you see the multiple floors all in one panel,
and you're seeing them move through them. It's just, I was like, this is so cool.
One thing I also liked about this section is that this is one of the few moments in the comic where the illustrations go outside of the edges of the panels.
Yeah. Yes.
Which really gives a nice, good sense of like dynamicness to it.
Sure. Yeah. With the acid spill, when they're trying to cut the leg, right? That's one of the only times they really break. They start to break the frame there too.
That's also what I was referencing earlier. Dallas says Ash has got something down his goddamn throat, and Ash says that must be how it's getting oxygen to him. And so, I guess that's technically an explanation, but I don't know. The thing earlier about Carton and back still does kind of bug me, but I suppose it's fine. So whatever.
It's always bugged me a little bit too. It's just, you just gotta like accept it, right?
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever. It doesn't actually matter. It's just kind of weird.
The next thing I really care about talking about is this, again, another great 2-page spread of Dallas saying, let's get this turkey off the ground. Let's get this turkey off the ground. And then the shuttle taking off. Just great illustration.
Which one is that? I'm trying to find it.
It's when when they're leaving the planet. Page 33 should be.
Okay, so I haven't quite gotten there yet. I was still 1 or 2 pages behind. I like how after they noticed that the facehugger fell off, Kane's face visibly has a whole bunch of like welts and cuts all over it, which I don't remember being there in the movie.
No, he might have had some red marks. I don't exactly remember.
There are other things, especially comics, that imply that facehuggers do like cut your face, but in the movie I don't remember any of that being there, so the fact that they thought to do that here I thought was kind of interesting. Also, something else that I accidentally passed up earlier, again, maybe it's just me, but this comic felt like it ratcheted up the antagonism between Ripley and Parker.
That was, I think, something they added a scene in there also between the two of them, but the scene in the infirmary, though, Parker's like kind of on her side where he's like, we shouldn't have let maybe, but there is an added scene in where she's talking to them, and this is when he calls her a bitch, right?
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. Yeah,
this was added. I believe this was in an earlier draft of an earlier cut of the movie that they were working from, or it was in the script. That was an added scene to this as well. Just a radio conversation between the two of them.
My understanding is that this comic, they were given the shooting script for the movie, and that's what they based the comic off of.
And they were able to see a rough cut, I believe, at some point.
I also really like the way the series of panels are drawn on, I think it's page 32, of when the dead facehugger falls on Ripley's shoulder and she freaks the fuck out.
That's
that four panel scene is actually really good. Like, I really like the way they drew her face when it actually hits her shoulder, because her face is like half complete shadow, except you can still visibly see the one eye. Everything else is just faded in black, though.
Yeah, man.
That looks really cool to me. It was very, very well done.
All right, we're about there. We gotta talk about it eventually.
Yeah, we sure do. Oh, yeah, there we go. Let's get this turkey off the ground. Okay, I just hit it, drove away. They make it back to, like, the hauler.
Yeah. Then it's time for dinner. Kane comes out, dressed up for dinner, not looking like John Hurt at all in this panel.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only time I'll say doesn't really look like.
It doesn't. That's correct.
Like the actor.
Yeah, sure.
And then pretty much immediately we get the chest. I'm bearing the lead. Like, anyone doesn't know what I'm fucking getting at. The chest burster scene.
Folks, we're talking about the chest burster.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Another panel that is the sickest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life. This comic has done like 6 of them so far somehow.
Jesus. This is disgusting. It's fucking disgusting.
Like this is what it would have looked like in the movie if they had an unlimited special effects budget.
Just a geyser of blood. This thing just like
launching out of his chest and like arcing through the air towards the viewer.
Is fountaining out of him, an eruption, a scarlet shower of flesh, of blood. That's the narration box literally uses the word eruption to describe what's happening. It moves.
It fucking blows out of his chest, dude. It rules.
It moves faster than the eye can follow. So in this, it just pops out and it's fucking gone. There's no pause. There's no second.
It zips right through the air, out the door, and everyone's like, what?
Can you, there's a part of me that's thinking about that, like versus the movie where it splatters out, right? It pops out. And then there's that beat, right? Where it's there and everyone's staring at it. And they just have no fucking clue what they're looking at, right? Mm-hmm. And then it scurries away, And, obviously they don't have a chance to react and to kill the thing. They've never seen one of these things before in their life, right?
Whereas in the comic book, they change it so that it bursts out and scurries away. And then after that, there is the moment of pause where everyone's like, what?
Yeah, it moves faster than the eye can follow, more than the mind can accept. It just explodes and it's out of his chest and it's gone. And they have no idea like what they even saw or what they even looked at. That is terrifying. Like, both are terrifying. This is a different kind of terrifying.
Like,
right?
Honestly, structurally, I think I prefer this the way it does in the comic, where it bursts out and zips away, and then they have that reaction moment, because now that reaction moment is also, oh no, where did it go? On top of being, what even is that?
I would like to see a version of this in an alien movie where a chest burster bursts out of someone so quick and runs off so fast that like there's no chance for anybody to even react or realize what had just happened. Where the filmmaker has, I'll say it, the courage to not linger on the moment for the money shot and just do this. I don't know, man. That was rad. I thought it was a really interesting difference.
According to my notes, we also missed a brief moment of dialogue earlier that I don't remember where it happened, but there's a brief conversation between Ripley and Dallas where how in the movie they mention that Ash is a last-minute replacement, but in the comic, Dallas goes, well, so were you. What's the problem? And I was like, oh, shit, Ripley was also a last-minute replacement. That's fun.
Yes. That was also, I think, that was added for this. That I think that might have been that also made it into the novelization, I believe. That was also from the shooting draft, right?
And then right after the chestburster zooms off, like the page where it's zooming away, the final panel at the very bottom is also sick as hell, where the ship is blasting through space.
Yeah, and just like the little dude tore off through the...
And there's like stars on one side, but the movement of the ship is creating like a draft around it. And so it's leaving this really long tail of just color instead of space while it's flying along.
Yes.
That looks really fucking cool.
Yeah, man. All right. So now we're at the part where they're in the hunting party, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ripley, Parker, and Brett. We're building up to Brett's death here, right?
Mm-hmm.
They find the motion detector finds the cat. They don't catch the cat. They're like, we got to go get the cat. Brett, you let it go. Otherwise, it's going to keep setting off our motion detectors. So go get the cat, right? Immediately, they're like, let's split up, right? Classic horror movie shit.
Yep. And when Ripley sends Brett away to go get Jones, there is a completely unnecessary close-up shot of Ripley's ass in that panel.
Is there? Oh,
there
yeah.
is.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why, but there totally is.
Ugh. Anyway. Brett sure is talking to himself a lot in these panels, but he finds the skin. It all plays out very just like the movie. He doesn't drink from the dripping water in the chain room. We see that equipment, that vehicle. I know our buddy Synth Norbert really likes the various vehicles that don't get explored too much on the Nostromo.
Mm-hmm. Well, Neil, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Or let me ask you, I should say. Brett is chasing after Jones.
Yeah.
Then he finds the skin and picks it up. And then what happens after that?
The biggest fucking xenomorph you've ever seen in your life pops out.
Absolute biggest xenomorph you've ever seen in your life. This MF looks like he is 20 feet tall.
Yes.
And there is another panel a couple of pages later where it also looks 15, 20 feet tall. Yes, it turns out it rules when I think it rules when comics do that. It looks so cool when they make him monstrously huge. It rules.
The grown xenomorph is always in this. The big chap in this is bigger chap. Okay.
Yeah, he's not 8 feet tall. In this comic, he's like 15 feet tall.
But consistently.
And it's so cool.
Consistently gigantic.
That's the thing. It is consistently. Like, that is a change they made for the comic. It's not like them messing up. They just decided to just, in the comic version, he's just noticeably bigger than he is in the movie.
Yeah, even at the end, he's still pretty damn big.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's real big. Yep. And like this panel of the xenomorph lunging at Brett while he reacts. And like they made the really cool choice of like the background is washed out yellow. And they made the Xeno himself like this cool like rust brown color.
Yeah.
And this shot of the xenomorph is the negative color one that they use as the first page of the comic. That's like dope. A close-up insert shot of his head and face is the image from the very beginning first page of the book.
Brett tries desperately to scream. The sound is not in him. He screams in the movie, though. I guess he screams in this, too. Because, he does. Yeah, they follow it up. So his death plays out differently in this. So we were a little incorrect in our Alien episode. We kind of imply that Brett dies off screen because he gets picked up by the xenomorph that's hanging off the chain and dragged up. The thing does kind of bite him and then pull him up, right? Mm-hmm. And then if you look in the egg morphing scene in the director's cut, he's in there getting egg morphed. He's the one who is getting egg morphed, right?
No, that's interesting. I don't think I remember that.
Yeah, he's the one who like looks the most like he's beginning more. So he at least got injured, right? Maybe not killed by that bite, but in this, the thing doesn't drop down on a chain.
It comes up behind him. Yeah.
It fits its tail between his legs, lifts it up, and stabs him in the back and pushes it towards
like
its
right between the shoulders, and then uses its tail to push him into its mouth.
Yeah, and then Brett finds the scream, right? And I love this little panel hiding behind that blood splatter of Ripley and Parker, hearing the scream.
Yeah, it's the two of them hearing Brett scream, but like over the right half of the panel, the blood splatter from him screaming is over the panel of Parker and Ripley.
Yeah, just some beautiful page design.
I also like here when we see Brett get stabbed by the tail. This is also something that I notice later on in the book. This comic also does. The way they draw the xenomorph tail, it looks flat almost, kind of like a ribbon or like a tapeworm or something that.
Yes.
Which I honestly thought looked really I thought that was cool. I liked it. I thought it was an interesting choice.
It's very cool.
I don't think it's actually intended to be like that, but the way they drew it, it looks like the tail tapers off into becoming flat near the end rather than staying round the whole way down. And I thought that was a really cool choice.
It's very cool. Oh my God. Sorry. We go from here into Dallas's plan to trap the thing in the vents and kind of work it towards the airlock and blast it out, right? With the flamethrower, corner it and, shut things down behind it. However they describe it. It's always whatever,
Guys, you saw the movie. You remember what happens. They do the same thing in here.
It looks great.
Yeah, it does.
Again, xenomorph, when it kills Dallas, 27 feet tall. I don't know.
Yeah, that is the other thing I was referring to, the panel where it actually confronts Dallas, because again, they do it a little bit differently. In the movie, I believe it comes at him either in or through the vents, whereas here he's just in a darkened room and it just lunges at him from above because not from above. That's not a separate panel. Sorry, I misread it. It comes at him though, and it's absolutely massive.
I mean, it comes from above by way of towering over him.
Yes, it does. It doesn't jump on. It doesn't jump on him from the ceiling though, which is what I initially read it as. But yeah, it's just absolutely massive. This thing is fucking probably 20 feet tall.
I'm thinking this will be the thumbnail.
It's so cool, man. I love it so much.
It's really good.
And then after that, it cuts back to the, 3 survivors, not counting Ash, of course.
Yeah.
They get into an argument, and then there's this really weird scene where Ripley, after Parker points out that Ripley's the captain of the ship now, and Lambert starts having a breakdown, and Ripley's don't worry, I'm getting everyone out of here. And then there's a pause, and then Ripley goes, "Hey Lambert, did you ever fuck Ash?" And she goes, "No, did you?" And Ripley's like, "No. I always got the impression he was not really interested." And I was like, oh, are they they're implying that Ash is gay, I guess?
I don't think that's, I think that's why it probably got cut. Because this also, I think, made it into the novelization. I think almost anything in this that wasn't in the movie made it into the novelization, is my understanding. I believe that that's probably why the scene got cut from the movie. But I think the implication here was that she was starting to not that we would have any fucking clue, but the idea is we're supposed to put it together later. Oh, he's a synthetic. That's why he didn't want to have sex with them, and that was Ripley starting to be suspicious of him, and whether he was a human or not. We're supposed to put that piece together afterwards, but it does just kind of sound like them saying, I don't know.
And that's exactly it. We have no reason to suspect that Ash is anything other than human at this point.
Right.
So when you're reading comic, the scene is just like, hey, do you ever think about how Ash is probably gay? Oh, you thought that too? Okay, cool. Anyway, let's go on with our business.
Yeah, it would have made more sense if she had had the chance to ask Dallas or something, right?
Also, speaking of which, it's very funny too that you mentioned that, because the first time I read this comic, I misread the dialogue and I thought they were talking about Dallas, not Ash. And so I was like, so there's just suddenly this weird scene in the middle of the comic where they're like, hey, you think Dallas was gay? And then I read, and it was so weird that I read it again and I was like, oh, that says Ash, not Dallas. Oops.
So now Ripley's captain. She's got access to Mother because, you know, she did the whole thing like, Ash, aren't you going to fucking do anything? And he's like, no, we're still collating data. Mm-hmm. And she's like, all right, just fucking do nothing, just like you've been doing. I'll get my own answers from Mother. She learns about the
Special Order 937.
Yes, kill all the Jedi, right?
Yep.
The minor difference here is that they say that this order came from Milsai, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, as opposed to just from the company.
Yeah, I'm looking at the panel right now. I believe it is. Yeah,
it may not be in the panel specifically, but it comes from them talking about it at some point. Yeah, Milsai.
You know what? One thing doesn't happen in this scene.
Ash doesn't talk to her first.
They do not use the phrase "crew expendable."
What? No, suddenly this book sucks.
Yeah, it ends with all our other considerations secondary, all previous priorities rescinded. It does not actually say the phrase "crew expendable" during this moment, and I was like, "What the heck?"
Boo.
The comic is bad now.
Archie, what are you doing, man?
The comic is bad. We're giving a vote of no confidence. We're booting it from the TV show. We're erasing this episode after it comes out.
More like Archie Badwin, am I right?
Got him.
Rest in peace.
He shall not be recovering from that one.
No.
But yeah, then she turns around after finding out about Special Order 937, and Ash is standing there, and then he slaps the shit out of her.
Yeah.
And tries to kill her, and then tries to choke her with a magazine like everyone else.
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there. Yeah, it plays out like the movie, basically, except she's able to...
Yeah, pretty much.
She doesn't have any words in the movie. She talks to him a little bit first, and then they start fighting, and then in this, she's able to call Parker and Lambert. I don't remember her doing that in the movie, but who cares? They catch wind of it.
She manages to get on the radio, has just enough time to say their names before he smashes the radio, but they still managed to hear him and show up.
Yeah, but there's a difference in when they bust his head off. He's not all filled with milk and old seafood, right?
He's not. It's just regular robot parts.
Yeah, he's just like a regular robot. It's less fun.
Yeah, it's like, wires and cords and screws and stuff. Yeah, it's just normal robot parts. It's not like the weird, gross robot stuff.
This is fucking dope when his head's knocked off and he's still but he's on top of Parker, strangling him.
Yeah, I love the scene where he fucking lunges at Parker, and his head hasn't been completely ripped off, but it's been removed. So it's literally flopping backwards, so his face is pointed out towards away from his back, which I thought was fun.
But
when he lunges at Parker, his body is completely horizontal but in midair.
Yeah, comic book style. When Ripley comes at him with this electro rod, right? In that last panel, it straight up looks like a sword. It's like she's just straight up shoved a sword down his neck or something.
It sure does, because it even has a hilt on the end of the handle. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Love it.
And then, okay, so here's the part where she drops Milsai. And then she's like,
Yeah, Ash has been protecting the alien under orders from Mil Sai. There we go.
how can we kill the alien? And he says, you can't. It's a perfect organism. All right. So, yeah, name drop that podcast, but not this one. All right.
I see how it is. They like them more. Archie Goodwin likes that show more than he likes ours. I see how it is.
Archie Goodwin invented podcasting.
Boo.
Yeah, he's the one to blame for a lot of problems these days.
Yeah, I also like shove your fucking sympathy when Parker lights Ash's head on fire.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Good
Flamethrowing
line.
that bitch. So now they got their plan together that they're going to do, we're going to self-destruct the ship and we're going to get out on the shuttle, right? We all know what's happening. All right, so we are on page 52 of 62. The book ends, the story ends on page 62, okay?
Yeah, and so we have 10 pages left, and 10 pages before the end of the comic is when Ripley starts the countdown.
And, okay, yeah, versus 20, what did I say? It was like 20-something pages on the...
2021, I think.
On the planet? I know we said it earlier in this podcast.
Yeah, a full third of this book was spent with them wandering around on surface of the planet compared to the 10 pages given to the entire climax of the movie.
Now the movie moves pretty quick here too, in the book's defense, but this is the area that I would have liked an adaptation like this to spend a little bit more time, right? Because immediately and within one page we get Lambert and Parker's death. Right. Or I guess it's over 2 pages. It's a page and a half, basically. Right.
Yeah.
We get Lambert away. And
Ripley sends them away. And then you see them down gathering all the tanks. And then Parker turns around and it's just there lunging at Lambert.
Yes. And then we get this very cool scene, which I was glad to see in the film. This is, or in the book. This was not in the film. This is in a early shooting draft as well, where the xenomorph is sort of folded up in this weird box shape that Ripley sort of stumbles across, and then it sort of unfolds, right?
Yeah, I described it in my notes as the scene where it unfolds from a weird blob in the middle of the hallway, ? Sick.
There's a quote I want to read from Walt Simonson here, where he talks about this. Mm-hmm. He says, there's a scene at the end when Ripley is running around the spaceship. She bumps into a box and the box unfolds itself, and it turns out to be the alien waiting for her there in the hallway. It was in the rough cut that I saw. So he says it was filmed in the movie that he saw. It's not in the director's cut. And I didn't find it in any of the deleted scenes that I watched either. That's just me talking here. All right, back to Walt. I thought it was really cool. They were still editing the film at that point, so when I got to the point in the graphic novel where I had to put that page in or not put it in because it would affect the placement of the left and right pages of the story, I asked and they said, right now it's in. I added it back in, pasted everything around it, and then lo and behold, the movie comes out and the scene isn't there. What that does, speaking as a storyteller, is it foreshadows what the alien does later when Ripley gets into a lifeboat and she isn't at all aware that the alien was there. I thought it was very cool that they would do something in the story where you begin to understand that the alien can fold up in ways that it doesn't look like itself. It moves the alien a few feet further away from just being a guy in a rubber suit. And that made me think, the first time we really see the alien blending in anywhere in Alien is on the shuttle at the end, right?
I would say no. It is when the xenomorph is blending in with the chains during the scene where Brett gets killed.
Kind of. It just sort of comes down the chains and just sort of leans down from them in a really unnatural way behind him. I guess it was hanging out up there. I guess you can kind of see it, can't you, in a certain way when he's coming into the room if you're looking for it?
I mean, if you already know that it's there and where to look. Yes, you can clearly see it, but if you're not already looking for it, it just looks like some piece of whatever. But I will say I actually disagree with our man Simonson here. I'm glad that they removed this scene from the movie, specifically because, for the reason he was mad they took it out, it foreshadows the fact that the xenomorph does this later, so that them taking this out now means when the xenomorph does do it later, you don't see it coming, which to me is more effective.
Way more unexpected, right?
So I'm actually, like, unlike him, I'm kind of like, it looks sick in the comic, but I'm glad it's not in the movie.
That's probably ultimately why they cut it. This is a little different because here it's out in the open. It's not hiding against a wall or anything. It shows like a weird, in the way he's got it drawn, it's almost like morphing, right? It's almost like mutating out. So
it doesn't look like it's unfolding. It looks like it's literally shape-shifting.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also the last panel on the next row of panels below that, I love the way that he drew this. It's like it's giving a big shit-eating grin to the camera, which is really funny.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. The xenomorph, they're just like,
like you can imagine it's rubbing its hands together, you know?
Yeah. So another difference here is that I guess Ripley had already started the self-destruction sequence before Brett and Parker ate it in this, and in the movie she starts it after they died.
That's correct. She starts it after Brett dies. Like when Parker and Lambert split off, the first thing Ripley does is start the countdown. Yeah. And then right after that, they get killed.
Yeah, what names did I say Parker and Parker and
you said
Lambert?
Parker and Brett.
I meant to say Parker and Lambert. Guys, it's late and I got to take medicine soon. All right, give me a break.
Well, like I was correcting you so that the listeners can follow along with our conversation. I wasn't trying to get one over on you.
I know. I just want them to know that I recognize that I was wrong, but I also wanted to be kind of a dick about it.
Fair enough. I'll allow it.
Yeah. So now she's just running back to try to, like, because she can't get past the alien, the xenomorph. Like in the movie, where this is where she goes around the corner and she sees it there and she hides and she's like, shit, I can't get to the shuttle. I got to go turn off the self-destruct, and she can't. Right. And
she can't. So she comes back the way she came, where the direction she saw the xenomorph earlier, and not fucking there anymore.
Yeah, but she makes it to
Narcissus. That's right.
She makes it to the shuttle, to the Narcissus.
Yep.
60 seconds. Ripley looks for death in the cramped interior of the Narcissus. That's where I got the intro for our thing from, and finds nothing.
Then there is
nothing.
Then there is a pretty sick full-page panel of the plate or of the thing blowing the hell up.
Yeah, but she made it.
Pretty sick.
But we all know where this is going, right?
Yeah.
She gets in her underwear.
Sure does.
Talks to the cat a lot more than she did in the movie.
Also, yes, that is correct.
Talks to the cat so much. Talks to Jones about she's going to get a big reward for something. Her big reward is going to be a long sleep. Network should pick her up. I guess she's kind of rewording the things she says at the end, right? With any luck, the network should pick us up in about 6 weeks, right?
When she dives into the, like, whatever you want to call it, the hatch or whatever, where she has to go, like, put the suit on, I really like the clong sound effect that they used for when she pulls the door shut.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah.
Clong is a really funny sound effect that I really liked.
When she finds out the biggest chap is there.
And then, she fucking opens the door, the xenomorph gets sucked out. And then, she shoots it with a harpoon and the xenomorph bleeds red.
Yeah, interesting.
Excuse me.
Hey, at this point, all we knew was that face huggers bleed acid.
That's true.
And bleed green. We don't know anything about
that's true.
These guys.
It is very specifically mentioned that when James Cameron was making Aliens, he had to decide whether full-grown xenomorphs have acid blood or not. That is true.
Yep, and guess what he decided, everybody? We know how this plays out, though. The harpoon gun hits the thing. The harpoon gun gets caught in the door. she is able to get the when the xenomorph gets in front of the afterburner, she's able to turn it on and burn it, allegedly, right? And that's when we learn that we've been reading the prequel comic, Alien Romulus.
The Romulus prequel comic. That is correct. Right. The one that I made the joke about in our fucking Romulus prequel comic episode. Yes, that's correct.
There's a prequel comic to the prequel comic. Everybody, surprise! Happy Alien Day.
And yeah, she blows it. And the last line of the comic, the last line of dialogue in the comic is, "Guess again, you son of a bitch." Because in this comic, she does not give the sign-off monologue at the end of the movie. No. That just doesn't happen.
That's because she said half of it to the cat already.
So yeah, guess again, you son of a bitch. And then there's just narrative, like there's just narration boxes. And not that it matters, though, because there is literally only one panel of the comic after that.
Here's an interesting thing, though. Here's an observation. The door, the gun gets caught under the door, so the door is open.
Yeah.
And there's a note here that she repressurizes the cabin.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down in my notes.
Yeah, which means at some point in this universe, in the universe of this comic book, she has opened the door and released that harpoon gun.
That is correct, yes.
And then closed it. So in this universe...
Yeah, because in the movie, I believe the door closes on
the cable.
On the cord, the cable. Yeah. Whereas in this one, when the door closes, it closes on the gun itself, which gets pulled out of her hand. And so the door doesn't actually close all the way. And I went, that's interesting, because later on they say that she manages to repressurize it, but they never say how she did that.
Well, she must open the door and then let the gun out and then close the door again.
Had to have, yeah.
So no harpoon gun in this one.
Uh-huh.
This is actually a prequel to Out of the Shadows. This
it sure is.
This could accurately be followed by Out of the Shadows. Which
now we find out that Out of the Shadows, they, rather than watching the movie, they read the comic. We didn't even know that until right now.
Yeah, that's why they weren't concerned about how to get a harpoon gun back in the door, so it could be a prequel to Aliens, because they didn't know that there was one in the door. Which means that the real sequel to Out of the Shadows would have to be Newt's Tale.
Correct. Yes, that's how it works. That is the new timeline.
Fuck it.
Yeah, fuck it. That's right.
Fuck it, guys.
Also, I like how during the final panel, they call it her sleep vault.
That's pretty good. I'm going to call my bed funny. My sleep vault from now on.
The sleep vault.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the end of the comic, guys.
Good fucking comic book, guys.
The comic is good as hell. It rules. I had a great time reading it. Anyone out there, if you've seen the movie, which presumably is most of you, definitely read this comic, because it is because of the change of medium, it really does feel like a different experience, but it's a lot of the little details, the details of the illustration and the way the coloring is done, the minor changes. And if you are somehow listening to this episode and haven't seen the movie, this is an accurate representation of what the movie is like.
Yeah. If you're
not just in events either, stylistically, vibes, it has the same tone. Well, not exactly the same tone, because this movie has a lot more warm and bright, warm colors and bright lights in it, but it has the same tone, the same feeling that the movie does. So it is an accurate representation, not just through events, but also in that way as well.
There's one little thing I did want to touch on when the xenomorph is in the shuttle, real fast here. Mm-hmm. The Xenopedia article is reminding me of this. Ripley comments that the reason I think that I've heard about why the xenomorph, when it's on the Narcissus, doesn't just jump out and kill her, is because originally they were theorizing that as vicious as these things are, they don't have a very long lifespan, right?
Yeah, it curled up to hide to die, the way your 17-year-old dog curls up underneath the front porch.
Sure. Jesus Christ, dude. Man, make everybody sad. God.
That's right, baby.
They
come up with a new explanation for this one.
Yeah, this one, her theory, Ripley's theory, is that the alien knows it's trapped in there with her, and so it's just going to hang out until it gets hungry. It doesn't have to kill her right now because it's not hungry. It just ate Parker and
it's
Lambert,
it's not like she can go anywhere,
and it knows she can't go anywhere, so it's just like not in a big hurry to kill her.
So yeah, just chilling.
Which is pretty fucked up.
Which there was one of the stories in Black, White, and Blood did something kind of similar. The one where with the woman that was like, "I am coffee" or whatever the line was.
I'm a donut.
Where it turns out she was like livestock in a farm.
Yeah, I'm a donut.
Kind of the same idea.
The donut lady. I'm a donut.
Donut, not coffee. Yeah, the donut. I am a donut. But yeah, it's like kind of the same idea there, where it's just like they hold them just until they decide they're hungry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting concept, interesting idea. I wonder if that Black, White, and Blood, if they pulled that idea from this also.
Also, there was one thing that, again, I may have just forgotten it was in the movie, or maybe it's new, but there was a scene that I don't remember having seen before earlier on where Dallas confronts Ash. And like, this is after the chestburster shows up, and Dallas is like, "Ash, you've been medically monitoring Kane this entire time. How the fuck did you not know that thing was inside of him?" I read that and I was like, and I saw that and I was like, shit, that's a good point. I never fucking thought about that before. Point. Oh my God.
Huh.
And I don't remember exactly what Ash's response was, but his response was like, basically like, in the same vein of like when we were discussing like, the scene where Ash lets the three of them into the ship despite Ripley saying no. And Ash was basically like, "Get fucked, I'm going to do it anyway." His response when Dallas asks him that was basically the same thing. He's like, "What do you want from me?"
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I'm a last minute addition. Let me see if I can bring it up here.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it too.
Oh, was it after? It was after the chestburster, right?
Yeah, because after the chestburster came out, Dallas was like, "How did you not know that thing was in him, dude? What's going on?"
Why did you let the alien survive inside Kane? You were monitoring his body. You had to know the thing was alive. I figure you have a reason. Dallas, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. The alien is dangerous. I don't want it alive any more than you do. You sure? Yes, and you should be too. So he gave him a non-answer.
Oh yeah, so that's what it was. His explanation for how did you not know that thing was in him was, "Look, I want this thing dead too." And it's like, that doesn't answer his question. You did not answer his question, man.
Yeah, he didn't.
You straight up did not answer his question.
Yeah.
And again, it's another thing like how they managed to bring Kane back over the surface of this moon. It was one of those things where when I was watching the movie, that never occurred to me, but then the comic showed it to me and I went, "Yeah, that is a good point. What the hell?"
Well, that's the thing, right? Like the movie controls the pace. So the movie can move you right through those things and right past those things. And when you're reading a story like this, you control the pace. So you can
the pace is as quick or as slow as you decide to read it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can get hung up on those things, or you can stop and be like, "Wait a minute," which, is both a good thing and a bad thing. I don't remember them having that kind of a conversation in the movie, but it makes sense that they would have a conversation like that in the movie. Do they just not even talk about it?
As far as I know, that scene of dialogue between Dallas and Ash, as far as I know, that is new to the comic. I don't ever remember them having that conversation before, because when I read it, like when I read it in the comic, I was like, "Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that before. Why did he?" And so that leads me to believe it hadn't been in the movie.
A much longer version of this scene was planned for the film and appears in the novelization. We got to read this novel sometime.
We do, man. Damn.
So I think it just wasn't touched on in the movie, which makes sense, right? Because if they don't want you asking those questions, they're just like, "Let's not bring it up." People are just going to ask questions about this. The easy
Yeah,
answer
like especially
is
because
we didn't know how to. We can't scan inside people on this ship. We're just a towing barge, right?
because the scene is in the comic and in the novelization. Yeah, like you said, it was in the movie and then they must have cut it out because they're like, oh, maybe it makes Ash look too suspicious.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was like, because it was right after Kane died and so they thought it like messed with the pacing or whatever. But yeah, like since it's in the novel and the comic, presumably it was supposed to be in the movie and then they cut it,
Yeah, they trimmed it because they probably didn't. Maybe you start asking those kinds of questions. When does it stop?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I watched the movie and that thought never occurred to me, and I've seen it multiple times.
Yeah.
So,
all right, we should probably wrap this up because this is going to be a heck of an edit for me to do by Saturday. So
yeah, to be honest, I didn't really have anything else anyway.
Yeah.
We already hit the end of the comic, and folks, the comic is like 90% the movie. So
it is, yeah. And as you can hear from us just talking about the way the comic was made, it looks great. It was made by two experts in the field, and based on a great script that became a great movie.
There we go.
There's no way that this was going to be bad, right?
Yep.
Like that is
correct. I agree with that.
This is solid. I wish it was. I would love to have a copy of this. Do you know how much it costs to get a copy of this now?
No, not off the top of my head. I don't.
I'm gonna pop up the old the electronic bay.
I didn't think to look. So
Alien Illustrated Story 1979. Well, you can have it now. Honestly, not too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the condition you want it in. This is affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Buy it now, $48.
Okay, that's still more than the price that the comic would be if it just came out today. Because like I said, a book of this size, full color, etc., of this length would be roughly $15-20 in that ballpark. So that's still a lot more than you'd normally be paying for something like this. But
yeah, here's a fairly beat up one that's buy it now for significantly. I mean, you're about $20 out the door, but it's coming apart. This book, I will call this book affordable.
Okay, that's fair.
UK import, a new listing for the UK import's pretty affordable. Anyway, my point is, I'm getting lost in the weeds here, guys. I'd love to have a copy of this on my shelf because this is an Alien comic that I would not just read again, but this is one that I'm going to want to just like flip through and look at again, right? Like this has art book qualities,
Yes, this is worth checking out just to see how good the art is. The xenomorphs are like maybe franchise best looking.
Mm-hmm. This is don't make no mistake. This book is not striving for realism at all. This is comic book, right?
Oh yeah, it is definitely. It knows it is a comic book and it is playing to the strengths of that medium.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it looks like it made me excited to find some of these Walt Simonson Conans because I love a Conan book. I would love to see a Walt Simonson Conan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, man, can you imagine Conan in this style? Again, a comic book look, right?
Yep.
So, guys, go check it out. Just do it.
Yeah, this is definitely like, how should I phrase this? Listeners, Neil and I are both giving this our highest possible recommendation, half of a thumbs up.
This is how you should spend your Alien Day, reading this illustrated story, which is maybe there's an organization that archived it somewhere on the internet, if you know what I mean.
I am not winking right now, and the reason I'm telling you that is because you can't see me to make sure that I'm not winking, so I'm not winking right now when he says that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and anyway, that's all. Guys,
check it out.
We love you.
All right, clearly Neil's running out of steam, so let's wrap this up.
I think after our next recordings, Kenny, I think we need to, as we promised on our What If episodes, we got to get caught up on that AVA stuff. And then
we sure do, man. I've actually really been looking forward to picking that back up.
So I think our next episode will be AVA number 2. So if you haven't listened to our episode on AVA number 1, go check that out in the archives. I'll be giving that a re-listen because I don't remember anything about that book.
I'm probably just going to read issue 1 again rather than listening to the episode. But you do you, dog.
I am too, but I also need to make sure I know which format we recorded that in. So
fair enough. Kenny,
where can people find you on the internet?
My handle is at CYHOBBEZ. Despite all pressures, both within and without, I am still actually on Twitter. I have not shut my Twitter account down yet. But I'm still on there. I'm still on Blue Sky, although I forget about it a lot, and so I almost never post on it. I'm probably on some other social media sites too, but like those, I don't really post a whole lot. I have a lot of social media accounts, but it's mainly to see other people's posts, not to make my own. Mm-hmm. So you can find me in various places, but you won't really get much out of finding me there.
Making this longer because I got medicine to take, aren't you?
Not on purpose. But that was all I had, so go ahead. Now it's your turn.
You can find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, at Final Neil. Kenny, where can people find the show on the internet?
Our Twitter account, which like mine is still not shut down, is at Crew Expendapod. Our Blue Sky is at Crew Expendable. Our Instagram and our Threads are both at Crew Expendable Pod. Our website is crewexpendable.net. As Neil said earlier, our email is mother@crewexpendable.net, and our YouTube page is youtube.com/@crewexpendable.
Yeah, and hey, check out subscribe to our YouTube, even if you listen on the podcast feed, because I think our friends Tom and Synth Norbert are going to be providing a couple of exclusives over there pretty soon.
Mm-hmm. Yep, the YouTube page might have some content that will not be appearing on the feed for the show.
Yeah, but they're unpaid, so it's when they get around to it.
That's correct.
We're
still cracking that whip at them, though.
But we're also unpaid, so...
So there you go. It all comes out in the wash. Don't worry about it.
For the love of the game. That's why we do this, right?
That's right.
All right. AVA number 2 next time.
Mm-hmm.
So until then, stay frosty.